All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to talk about a voice that's, well, it's more than just a voice, isn't it? It's a whole cultural institution in India. A voice that has smashed barriers of religion, language, you name it, to bring a nation together. Of course, we're talking about the maestro, the legend, KJ Yesudas.
Now just look at this. These aren't just lyrics, you know? This is a mission statement. And what's wild is that this was from his very first recorded song. Not a love song, not some catchy film tune. Nope. It was this profound, unifying message that would basically define his entire career.
And it all kicked off on this one specific day, November 14th, 1961. Think about that. This single moment, his very first recording, it set the tone for a career that would last more than 6 decades. Always about bridging divides with the universal power of music.
So, to really get a handle on his incredible impact, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with that powerful debut, dig into the making of the maestro, see how he conquered the film world, look at the surprising battle he fought for acceptance, get into his philosophy of being a student for life, and finally wrap up with his enduring legacy.
All right, so first up, a debut of unity. We've touched on it, but that first song, Jati Bedam Matadwesham, it wasn't just some random song choice. It was a direct invocation of the social reformer Sri Narayana Guru's message of harmony, a plea to rise above caste and religious hatred. For a debut, that is an incredibly bold, defining move.
So, the big question is, where did this phenomenal, just soul-stirring voice come from? What were the building blocks of this incredible talent? Let's take a look. Okay, so his foundation was this really powerful and kind of eclectic mix. It all started at home, right? His father was a classical musician. He was also a massive fan of the Bollywood legend Mohammed Rafi. But the really rigorous, formal training, that came from the great Chembai Vaidyanatha Bhagavatar, a total titan of Carnatic music. So you've got this blend of devotion, pop appeal, and super deep classical roots. And that was the secret sauce, the key to a voice that could connect with literally everyone.
Now, with that solid classical training under his belt, he didn't just stick to the concert halls. Oh no, he absolutely exploded into the world of playback singing. He became this unstoppable force in Indian cinema.
And the speed and range of his success, it's just astounding. He has his Malayalam debut in '61, and just 3 years later, bam, he's in the Tamil industry. By the '70s, his voice is all over Bollywood. And get this, winning the highest national award 4 years in a row. That's not just good, that's a level of excellence that was, well, it was simply unmatched.
But here's the twist. For all of that popular acclaim, there was a whole other story playing out behind the scenes. His attempt to break into the, let's call it, the serious world of classical music, well, as one source put it back in 1994, it was slow and fraught with skepticism.
And this right here, this perfectly shows the two completely different worlds he lived in. For millions and millions of fans, his voice was divine. It inspired awe, it felt pious. But in the powerful, very traditionalist circles of Carnatic music, especially in Madras, the vibe was totally different. To some of them, he was an outsider, just a film singer who didn't have the depth and whose style was maybe a little too flashy for their taste.
This comment from an online forum way back in 1994 is so telling. It hints at this kind of cultural gatekeeping, right? The idea that these established purists might have secretly been like, wow, this guy is incredible, but they just couldn't bring themselves to say it out loud, to legitimize a popular film singer who just didn't fit their narrow mold.
And this story just shows how intense that criticism really was. Can you imagine? You give a performance that moves a whole audience, you get a massive standing ovation, only to read in the paper the next day that the critics are picking apart some tiny microscopic technical detail. This wasn't just music review. It felt, to a lot of people, like a constant campaign to undermine him.
So, and this is really the crucial point, this battle wasn't just about musical purity or the classic film versus art debate. It was also rooted in some pretty deep religious prejudice. You have a devout Christian man singing sacred Hindu verses with a devotion that connected with millions. And for some of the old guard, that was a line they just couldn't cross.
So, how did Yesudas himself handle all this constant pressure? You've got the adoration of the masses on one side and this biting criticism from the establishment on the other. Well, his personal philosophy was his anchor, and it really tells you everything you need to know about the man behind that incredible voice.
And to really get his mindset, you first have to understand this one powerful Sanskrit word, vidyarthi.
It doesn't mean master or expert or guru. It means student, a seeker of knowledge. And here it is, his philosophy, in his own words. Even as recently as 2015, after decades of insane success and a room full of awards, he still had this profound humility. So when critics questioned his knowledge, he never fired back claiming to be a vidyavan, a master. He always saw himself as a vidyarthi, a student.
And this metaphor he used, it just perfectly captures how he saw things. For him, music wasn't some mountain you conquer and plant a flag on. No, it was an infinite ocean. And he knew he could spend his whole life singing and still only get to experience a tiny fraction of it. You see, that humility wasn't a weakness. It was actually his greatest strength.
Okay, so when you put it all together, this incredible journey of immense talent, intense struggle, and just profound humility, what's the big takeaway? What's his enduring legacy, really?
I mean, first off, the numbers are just staggering. He won the National Film Award for Best Male Playback Singer a record 8 times. 8! Just let that sink in for a second. He's been honored by state governments. He's received 2 of India's highest civilian honors. At the end of the day, the official recognition just became undeniable.
But his legacy, it's so much bigger than just the awards on his shelf. He actually became the living, breathing embodiment of the message in his very first song. A Christian man loved all across the country for singing Hindu devotional music. A playback singer who commanded total respect on the classical stage. His voice didn't belong to one state or one religion. It belonged to everyone. He became a true symbol of integrity.
So at the end of the day, his life's work really leaves us with this powerful question. In a world that so often seems defined by what divides us, his journey is this timeless reminder. A reminder that true art, when it's offered with skill, with devotion, and maybe most importantly with a student's humility, it has this rare, beautiful power to bring us all together.